Welcome to the Longevity Optimization Podcast, where we discuss longevity, optimal health, nutrition, peak performance, cognitive excellence, and so much more. Today we have Harper Carroll on the podcast. Harper Carroll is an AI ML software engineer and educator who specializes in making artificial intelligence and machine learning concepts accessible to a wide audience. She holds a master's and bachelor's degree in computer science, specializing in AI from Stanford University. Her educational background includes a strong foundation in mathematics. She has industry experience with senior teams, having worked at Meta on projects related to augmented reality and civic integrity, specifically addressing misinformation and community protection. She has developed AI model coding tutorials and educational content, which have gained extraordinary popularity among online learners. During her time at Stanford, Carroll served as a teaching assistant for advanced computer science and AI courses, including the PhD-level decision-making under uncertainty. Her online educational presence spans platforms such as YouTube and Instagram, where she has accumulated over 300,000 subscribers. Harper, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Kayla.
It's so exciting to have you. You are like my new friend.
I know.
And it's been so fun.
So great.
We tried to film a podcast last time you came over.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It was like 4 hours.
We talked for 4 hours and then we were like, wait, we forgot about the podcast, but now we're tired. And we talked about too much. Let's just do it another day.
I know. We had to do a reset. Yeah, we did PMF and talked for like 4 hours. I loved it. How did you feel, by the way? Did you feel good?
Oh, yeah. I put a video on my story. I was like, feeling so great. I was like, I think I've been sitting here for over an hour. I'm chilling. I have my amazing water from Kayla.
Yeah.
What was that, like a nanomolecular or something?
Oh, yeah. Like nano restructured, hyper-oxygenated, medical grade water. Yes.
Amazing. I felt great.
We tried like 3 different waters while you were here.
Oh, yeah. And then you got your shipment in. And you're like, I'm so excited. It tasted great. And this is that, I think, right?
Yeah, that one. This is the Alive water.
That's
I know. So basically, we have so many common interests, health. I'm interested in AI. You're an expert in AI. You taught me about this polymath thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so excited. Maybe we'll just jump in. So,
okay,
real quick, before we really get into the details, you were explaining to me that AI is going to be like the ultimate polymath. I had never heard this term, and I'm so excited to learn from you too.
Oh.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I love this example. So a polymath is someone who is an expert in multiple fields. So there have only been a few hundred polymaths ever that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them were Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, and they're experts in multiple domains. And what that allows is a correlation, is drawing kind of correlations between these two fields and finding insights that you can't find when you're just looking at one or the other by itself.
Yeah.
And it leads to extraordinary breakthroughs. But we haven't had that many people who can do that because it's difficult to be an expert in one, let alone two, and then to find that intersection. And so what AI can do is it can be the ultimate polymath. I mean, it can be an expert in thousands of fields and then find that correlation between all these fields. And we'll be able to have advancements that we can't even fathom at this point because of this knowledge, this mighty brain that has knowledge of thousands of different fields and can kind of synthesize across them. And another example, so I read that example, this book, I forget what it's called. I'll let you know.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a great book and they gave that example. But my example that I like to give before I heard the polymath example was that if you imagine you have a room and you have 5 people in one room, or you have 2 rooms, 5 people in one room, experts in different subjects, kind of like what we're talking about. Rather than a polymath, it's 5 different single subject experts. And then you have an AI that is kind of the polymath in the other room that is one single AI that has exactly the same amount of knowledge as the 5 experts, but in it's just one brain. The AI is going to come up with so many insights and breakthroughs, and we can't even imagine what it's going to come up with, whereas the 5 people in the other room, even though it has the same amount of information, because it's across different brains, they could spend their whole lives talking and never find the same correlations that the AI can find in seconds or, minutes or whatever, what have you. So it's pretty amazing I mean, we are just going to see advancements that we can't even fathom, right? And so it's really exciting. Like we'll have breakthroughs in health and longevity and, cancer treatment and drug discovery. And I'm so excited about the health benefits that we'll see in AI, and also just optimization across like grid systems and energy management and food. And we'll just be able to optimize. I mean, we could have a utopia, right? From the extraordinary scientific breakthroughs that will come from this master brain. So it's exciting.
I'm so excited about it too.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. So you started studying AI like way before this was cool. I feel like.
Yeah.
What got you interested in this career path?
Great question. So when I was in high school, I've always been a math person ever since I was a little kid. Loved math. And I also simultaneously was acting. And I've loved to act ever since I was a little kid. Like I would watch the TV and repeat back the lines in a way I felt was more realistic on Disney Channel and all that. Anyway, so my senior year, I was interning at Columbia Business School with a Professor Kostis Maglaris. He was rad. He helped me learn about social and economic networks. And what I was doing was I was modeling how Amazon reviews over time converge into, single reviews. So like people start with very differing reviews and then over time they tend to converge, and like looking at why that is, and you can model it. Anyway, so I was doing that, and then simultaneously I was acting on the side, and I got really far in this role that is the one role I wanted the most my whole life. And I was mainly auditioning for, I had just gotten an agent. I was mainly auditioning for film and TV. And this was one that it was just a play actually, but it was the best script I'd ever read. It was a 5-person play. Granted, it was with like Sarah Jessica Parker and Blythe Danner, and like it was going to be a legit play. And I was so excited about it. So excited. It was just awesome. And me and the director got along so well. And she was like, I can't believe you've never been in anything. Like, you're perfect for this role. Anyway, it was between me and this one other girl at the time. We were like 17. And she got it. And I remember thinking like, I was devastated. And normally I'm like, whatever, But I realized that Sarah Jessica Parker and Blythe Danner are both like 5'3", 5'4". I was 5'8" at the time. Now I'm 5'9". I grew an inch.
No.
But I was 5'8" at the time, and I was supposed to play their niece on stage. Like there was just no way they could ever cast me. Honestly, it was just not going to happen. And it was like wishful thinking for me and the director because we were so excited, but it just wasn't going to work. And so I remember thinking like, I wish I could train an AI model, or at the time it wasn't AI. While I was working with Columbia Business School professor, I realized, oh my God, you can model social situations with numbers. Like this is crazy. And at the same time, I was taking calculus, and I don't think it was multivariable at the time, but I was taking calculus, which is all about optimizing, like finding the minimum and like optimizing different functions, finding the minimum on a graph. And I thought that was like the most fun thing ever was optimization. I thought it was the coolest math ever. I just loved doing like differential equations and all these things. And at the same time, learning about how you can model social situations with numbers. And so then I had this social situation that I wanted to model, which was like, what if I took stats from IMDb and was able to actually kind of train a model to tell me, you actually have a shot at this audition, like based on the people who are already cast and the history, whatever. This is something that you should audition for, and kind of like rule out a lot of auditions, because when you're an actress, you're auditioning all the time. Anyway, so that was like my thinking. And then, but I didn't still have a word for what this was. I just thought it was math. Okay. And then I went to Stanford, and I'd never done computer science, although I did use HTML as a kid. I had a website briefly, and we can talk about that at some point, but I got in trouble for that website. But
oh my gosh, what was okay, we have to circle back to that. What was that website?
And so it was basically new to computer science, and people in my hall were like, take it, try it, Because at Stanford, that's kind of the thing. Everyone does computer science, or at least they try it. They take CS 101. 106A is the actual course. Anyway, so I take it, and then it's super hard. I had a really hard time with 106A because it's basically like learning a language. And then 106B is algorithms. So 106A, you're learning like Java, you're like making games and graphics and like basic graphics and things like that. And then 106B is algorithms, which is like basically processes how to get from A to B and like do it in a really elegant, amazing way. And that was the coolest thing ever. Again, super challenging, but it trained my brain to think in a new way. And I thought that was super cool. It was my favorite class at the time. And then over time, as you had to decide, what major do you want to do? Sorry, this is a super long story, but
No, I love that.
Okay, good. Over time, at some point, you have to choose a concentration, okay? And there are different ones like, human-computer interaction, which is basically like people who make apps and want to make them really beautiful. Like they'll go that route. One of them was systems, like how computers work at their core. And then there's AI. And I'm looking at AI and I realize it's literally everything I loved in high school. It's like optimization, it's, calculus, in this case, multivariable, and linear algebra is added, which was super cool and challenging and also awesome. And it's modeling social situations with numbers, and then you can create these like predictive machines. And it was just perfect for me. And it's like algorithms as well, to tie it back to that. It was just everything that I had found interesting from like senior year until that point. And so I was drawn in, and it just felt like the perfect convergence. And now when I look back at how I was in high school with that problem in the social and economic networks and working with that professor, and I'm like, oh my God, it was AI. All that time it was AI. I didn't know. I didn't have a word for it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. Was it a really popular course at that time?
Which one? 106A or
just general, the AI kind of like, curriculum?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. I forgot the original question. It was not super popular.
Yeah.
No, it was kind of, not a lot of people were doing it.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I mean, now fast forward, it's like that's everybody's talking about.
Totally. I mean, people did it, to be clear, like people did it, but it was not the most popular.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what was the website and how did you get in trouble about it?
Okay, so I think I made the website in like first grade, I think.
First grade. Oh my gosh, I love little Harper.
I loved to create. I was like always just making something. But in first grade, my dad bought Harper Carroll, not AI, harpercarroll.com. He didn't know I was going to do AI back then. I still have the website today. And I wanted to be on the internet. The internet was super cool. So I learned basic HTML to make this site that was like, hi, I'm Harper. Like, here are my Tamagotchi tips and tricks. I had like a whole section. Apparently you could do like there's like ABC buttons, like keystrokes, and like get different cheat codes and things. I had a whole section for that. I had a joke section.
Oh my gosh.
But it was, I guess, relatively early in the days of the internet. Maybe, what I don't know, like how old I was, like 7 or something. It was relatively early in the days. I was born in 95. So my principal called me in and was like, I heard you have a website. You need to take it down.
Oh.
And I was like, why? And she was like, it's not safe. Like, you shouldn't be on the internet. You're a child. Like, you don't know who's on the internet. You don't know who's on there. Like, who's going to find you. And so I had to take it down. And honestly, maybe I would have become a prolific coder because I was having a great time working on my website.
Yeah.
And I had to stop. And I just stopped coding. But it came back to me later in life. You know how the universe does that. But yeah, so I got in trouble. There was nothing bad on the site. Unfortunately, it's not that juicy of a story, but they were just afraid.
Aw, well, I love that. And that's so cute. You were just like little coding in first grade. It's so cute. So cute. For anyone that doesn't really understand what, on this show, I typically talk a lot about like longevity and health. So if you don't really know exactly what AI means, like what's the most basic definition of it?
So AI is simulated intelligence by a machine, in the most basic definition. And that could come from like hard coding a machine. So say I could code the machine where if it receives the input high, it should output high. And so if you only say hi, it kind of seems like it's intelligent, right? Because it says hi back.
Yeah.
But that's not really true intelligence, right? It's just hard coded in that
Yeah.
sense. I could say, if it says hi, say hi. If it says what's up, say what's up. Then there's machine learning, which is when the machine is actually learning from examples. So say I passed it a ton of transcripts and it saw that when it receives hi, it might say, what's up? It might say, hello, nice to meet you. You could say all these different things. And then when at inference time, so when it's out in the world, inference means like when a model is deployed and it receives an input and it gives its output. At inference time, it has like this array of options that it could do, and it kind of probabilistically chooses based on what's most likely. It's determined in its training phase what is most likely. But yeah, so AI at its most basic definition is simulated intelligence, like by a machine. And then now today, we typically think of AI as most AI is machine learning. So like chatbots and things that you use or image generation models, they all use machine learning. They all learn from data. But yeah, there is a little distinction there. But I think over time, maybe that distinction will go away. Like all AI will also be machine learning, but I think the purists, like there's a difference technically.
Before we jump into health, so I watched the movie that you told me about the other day.
Oh my gosh, the Megan Fox one?
Yeah.
What is it called? God. I don't remember.
Something with an S. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I forget. But
yeah, I can't remember either. But it started with an S. It's a new movie. And essentially the premise is it's an AI robot.
Yes.
And the robot, things are going well in the beginning, and it's like just showing up to serve and make the owner happy.
Yeah.
And then a reset occurs. And then it goes totally rogue.
No sense, by the way, but okay. Like the fact that she goes rogue after a button reset is just crazy, but okay, yeah.
Was it because he told her that she could erase code? Is that like where it went wrong?
Maybe. I mean, he told her to erase data, not code.
Okay, yeah.
But like
the data from that movie.
But then she would have to like retrain. I don't know. There's some stretches here, but like anyway, continue.
So, okay, that happened. And then this AI robot goes just totally rogue and starts, doing a lot of bad things, right? Like seducing the husband, committing murder, a variety of different things. So I didn't even think about being scared about this, honestly, until I watched this.
I know.
Sorry, but no, that's okay. But you obviously hear way more about AI, right? And so some people have these concerns, like, is it going to get so smart and then like just, try to attack us? So what are your thoughts on that?
So I am not really into the humanoid space. That's like a whole thing that I've never really been interested in, or like robotics never really drawn me in. But yeah, I think I've always said this is that like that kind of thing spooks me, but maybe it's because I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know nearly as much as the experts do on it. The humanoid stuff is weird to me. When I think of how AI is going to help the world, I think of just optimizing systems. Like I think of the pure math and taking in data and looking at how to help things get better. I'm not really thinking about like making new humans or new like humanoids, And so that I'm less excited about that. And I watched that movie and I was like, I need to really like think about this and like pray on this. Like what is my response to this? Because people are going to ask. People are afraid of AI. And watching that, I'm like, oh, okay, I see why,
Yeah.
But I feel like something like that is so unlikely to happen. Well, first off, I think the robot would have to learn how to do all the things that it did. Like it would have to learn how to like shoot a gun and, know. But I guess you could say once the models get smart enough, if they even watch a movie on how to do it or a video on YouTube or something, they could figure it out. So I don't want to say that there's no risk there because I don't know about the humanoid bot world and it does spook me. But the AI that I'm really focusing on is not in that area. But I am curious. I would like to dig into that more because I want an answer, and I know that there are experts in it. Like Elon, he's coming out with his humanoid bots, right? And I wonder what he would say about it. I know also, though, Elon is concerned about extinctionism. Like Elon has come out and said we need to slow down AI, but then he still speeds up AI. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you on that. And maybe in a couple months I will.
Yeah, well, keep us updated.
I will.
But yeah, truthfully, I have only thought of AI, not to the level that you have, but in the way that you have, being very beneficial, helping to solve, a lot of the potential, some of the biggest problems. But then, you watch the movie and I'm like, okay, well, I see like that this could be something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like it's not hard to be spooked by that.
Yeah. So what about AI and health? Obviously, that is a big interest to me. We've already been chatting about some of the things that are kind of going around in my mind in terms of how can we best use it. And I just truthfully, I don't know a lot about it. I've been trying, I told you, I've been trying to like train a little AI bot to like take my data and then give me some information. But where do you see AI really being able to make a big impact on like longevity? You mentioned potentially cancer treatments.
Okay, so AI is able to identify like special cells and protein structures and go over massive amounts of data and find special things that we wouldn't be able to find by the fact that it's able to analyze just enormous amounts of data. And so that doesn't really make sense, but like for our human minds. But let me just give an example. So glioblastoma is a type of cancer that is the most deadly cancer. I forget the percentage, but what was it, like only 10% of people survive within 5 years of diagnosis or something like that. It's a brain cancer. You get tumors in your brain. And immunotherapy, which is an extraordinary, amazing breakthrough in cancer treatment recently, hasn't been able to help glioblastoma because the immune cells that are being transported in the blood aren't able to reach the tumor because there's a blood-brain barrier. So the brain cells are outside the blood. So the blood doesn't reach it. What AI was able to do was identify cells in the brain tumor that could cancer cells that could transform from cancer cells into cancer-fighting cells.
Wow.
Like what? They were able to find there are certain types of cells that can transform from cancer cells, not only into like healthy cells, but into cancer-fighting cells. And then they were able to do that.
Like activate them.
Yeah.
Like natural killer cells, essentially.
Yeah.
And
T cells, I think is what they're called.
Yeah.
And so, like, what? And so AI is able to analyze enormous amounts of data and find these little, like, optimizations and these miraculous cures. And I know that it'll be huge for drug discovery. And I bet we could, maybe there's some cell that is capable of, aging backwards or like pausing or, distributing healthy mitochondria. I don't know. This is your thing. But like to preserve the health of the other cells. I don't know. But AI will help us find those things because it's able to analyze enormous amounts of data.
I feel like early diagnostics too is an area in which.
Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%. Have you seen the images of like breast cancer?
I don't know if I've seen those ones, but I know, for example, I already get this thing called a clearly soft plaque analysis.
Okay.
So you do like the standard of care for cardiovascular health is getting a calcium score.
Okay.
That will tell you the amount of calcified plaque in your arteries. Okay. But they already have something better, which is this soft plaque analysis. So it wouldn't be easily detectable to just a standard radiologist, for example, is what I'm understanding. But the AI can go in and see if there's these soft plaques, which that's like pre-calcified plaques. So then you can do more about it, right? So if you go in, and instead of waiting to get calcified plaques, you now know way earlier with AI to be able to identify these soft plaques.
Oh my God, I love that. And there's another one. So a lot of, I forget the type of imaging that they do, but to detect like tumors and things like that, breast cancer.
Like an MRI?
Yeah, maybe it's an MRI. But anyway, the imaging.
Breast cancer would usually be like a mammogram.
Yeah, or it's like a black and white image.
Okay.
But basically they're any kind of imaging, any type of medical imaging, okay? AI is able to detect like smaller things that the human eye wouldn't necessarily be able to see. And it's able to detect breast cancer, like I think 5 years early, which is an enormous time saved, right?
Yeah.
And your chances of survival go up so much. And there's actually, I was reading somewhere recently, in the near future, it will likely be illegal to not diagnose someone using AI. To at least run an AI to double check your diagnosis or to assist your diagnosis.
Wow. That's exciting because I've seen some stats. I don't know if I haven't confirmed them 100%, but that AI is making better diagnoses than doctors.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's looking at, so if you think of it, so say you are like, think about like the best doctor you know. Likely they have 50 years of experience or something crazy, right? And it's experience for not just doctors, for any field, like therapists or whatever. They're like, I've done this for 30 years. I've seen so many examples. I see this. I notice patterns, I can tell you that in this situation, this is going to happen, or in this kind of symptoms, this is the diagnosis or this is the treatment. AI is all of those people who have been learning for 50 years, but times 100,000, or more. It has so much experience. It has the experience of, eventually, my hope is that we'll have like a database that's anonymized of people's health. And we were talking about this, their health stats, and then following them over time, like what illnesses did they get? What treatments did they use? Did the treatments work? And ultimately, we'll be able to diagnose people accurately, like every time. Every time. If we had the entire world or even just the United States health information and really tracked it and put it in a database and trained a model over time and anonymized it, we could have unbelievable health in the United States, because we would also know what treatments work. How do we help people? Like what works, what doesn't? So it's just amazing. It's like, imagine it's the expert, but it's thousands of experts over thousands of years, all in a brain.
It's so exciting. I mean, yeah, you brought up like drug development. I think it's actually like a very low percentage. I don't know the exact number, but of drugs actually working for people. So even it's a relatively low percentage. And it could be for a variety of different reasons. One of them, genetics. So if you have your genetic screening and then you compare it with, the actives in the drug, essentially you can figure out if that's going to work well for you, if there's another drug. But at this stage, it's kind of just like a try and see type model. So, some people are prescribed 3, 4, 5 different types of medication all in the same family prior to actually finding one that they find works for them.
Right.
So, I mean, that seems like a really broken model.
Totally. And if you had the data on what works, what does this person look like? What's their genetic makeup? What's their health history? Whatever. Which drugs work for them? Which don't? Like, this is so valuable. And then you could help people ultimately not have to try all the different ones. You could give them one that you think that you have a very high confidence will work for them. And if it doesn't, then that's just more data for eventually the model to get better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just so exciting. Like, it's crazy how exciting it is.
I know. I'm thinking about like all the things that it could identify for longevity. Like, yes, definitely. Like, maybe it would start like on an organ level and like think about how to reverse each organ system or the whole body systemically, one of the two. I think definitely it's going to be so fun. Like, I take so many supplements. I take like 40 supplements a day. It's wild. And if I could put all of the supplements into like one AI, which is what I'm going to hopefully be able to do soon.
Yeah.
And also see, are there any, contraindications with any of those supplements?
Yeah.
Are they counteracting each other in any way? And then understanding, I think what is going to be so interesting. So at the Buck Institute, they're working on like putting cells into this aging device. And so it will age the cells and tell you essentially what disease or your pathway of decreased health, right? Like what's really going to take you out and how.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So super interesting.
Yeah.
So if you have that data, and
So
then
they take people's individual cells.
Yeah. And they're like,
because it's different per person, like what's going to take them out. That's cool. That's also AI to age. Anyway.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, it must be AI because they're like basically putting it into this like compartment where it's aging it. And then
maybe it's not AI. I was thinking it was simulator, but anyway.
You could, or I'm sure that they're using AI in there, but it's like, okay, maybe you might have cardiovascular disease, right? Based on like your current health and your cellular makeup.
Cool.
So then if you could overlay with AI, like knowing that that is the potential pathway that you're going down, and then overlay which molecules, like exogenous molecules, could help to counteract that and prevent it. That's so exciting.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. And then over time, as you're giving more data to the model, it just gets better and better.
Because I think in the future, like AI will be developing those protocols on a daily basis, and then we just have like a 3D printer of all of the molecules, like hundreds, and then it creates it into like an elixir that you drink every day.
Oh my gosh. So I was just living here, I hear 3D printer and I'm like thinking of that horrible killer of the United CEO. He printed a gun.
Who? Oh, which one?
The United Healthcare CEO.
Really?
The killer.
I did not
printed
know that.
his gun and a silencer.
Oh my
what
gosh.
I heard.
What? Okay.
I know. That's just crazy. Also horrible. I think it's horrible. But
yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So 3D printer. I know. 3D printers are just crazy. Like I would like to use them more.
I know, me too. But how cool would it be and fun would it be instead of just like, I amend my supplements every quarter.
Yeah.
But no, this would be like on a daily basis. Like we have a little, like I just saw Oura Ring and Dexcom have now come together. So a CGM with Oura Ring, and who knows if it'll be Oura or if it'll be someone else, but to have ongoing data, blood data, hormone data for women.
I'm so excited for the hormone test. Oh, we women, we need better hormone testing.
I know. And then it just like pings you when it's the best time to eat this specific thing in your cycle, and it gives you each day of your cycle a different unique supplement, like just an elixir, like so it's super bioavailable, and you don't have to take the pills with the fillers and the cellulose, and just like a little beverage. That's
why, because you've been saying elixir a bunch, and that's why, it's because you don't have to take the pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Filler stuff.
Yeah, because the fillers and then even the capsule, make it easy on your liver and kidneys as possible, really.
Yeah, I'm really excited for women's health. I recently, or I'm not that recently, but there was one time that I was getting super hormonal before my cycle. And I went and I was told like, oh, see a psychiatrist or something. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go. And because I thought, I want to get my hormones checked and see like maybe I have too much estrogen or something, And I saw her and I told her what was going on. She was like, okay, we have two options. We can put you on birth control or we can put you on an antidepressant.
I know, you told me this. It's like,
I was like, are you kidding? I literally was like, that's it. You're charging my insurance like $1,000 for this session. You're offering those two options. You're not even going to run a test on my hormones. You're not even going to think about it. And she was like, no, we don't do that. Sorry. And I was like, screw this.
It's so crazy. I mean, I know that this happens, but it always like hurts me more. Like when I actually hear that it happened to someone that I know. It's wild.
It's crazy. That's my two options. Antidepressants or birth control. Oh, you're feeling hormonal? Let's put you on birth control. Like what?
Oh my gosh, for a million reasons. I'm so glad you do that. I'm so glad.
Of course not. Of course not. I went and saw a naturopath and then she tested my hormones. She's a doctor and naturopath because she has an MD and also does alternative medicine. Like
I know, right?
Checking your hormones.
No, it's so alternative.
Totally.
No, or maybe just like how medicine probably should be practiced. Like let's see what's going on and then think about the best and let's see why.
Right.
We don't ask why.
We don't know
anymore. It's just like,
figure it out.
Here's the diagnosis. Here's the prescription that's best suited.
Right.
Hi guys, I'm going to interrupt this episode for a brief announcement. As you may or may not know, I started a community for females by females, and it's a female longevity optimization community. This is a place that you can connect with like-minded women. We are all here to support each other, and there's a variety of different benefits to being a member. You get a monthly Ask Me Anything, so submit your questions and I'll answer them directly. We also have an entire library of courses on all of the important components of longevity, such as labs, nutrition, exercise, sleep optimization, longevity optimization protocols that I'm doing, along with real-time updates to my personal protocols. There are so many benefits of being a member of the community. We'll also be doing in-person live events here in California and virtual events for anyone that can't attend. But if you're interested in joining the community, I would absolutely love to see you there, and I will include a link in the show notes.
What are your favorite aspects of AI? Like, what makes you most passionate about it?
I think it's just kind of what we've talked about, like the fact that you can optimize any system and that you can have these insights across domains, and just, it's like a super brain. It's a super brain. And I think that we can really help people. And so I feel like my purpose with all of this, with the education, is because I really believe that AI can help bring a utopia. I really do. Like, the impact that we can have on humanity is absolutely enormous. And I feel like my purpose in all of this is to help people understand that. And in the meantime, how they can use it to their benefit, because it can help streamline a lot of processes and like kind of take away the tedious tasks that you don't like doing. So for example, I have a friend who's a photographer, and she told me, she's like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this new AI update. I can now just like click an area that I don't want to be there. For example, if I take a photo and there's this pole in the background that I don't like, I just click it and it's gone. I used to take 4 hours doing that.
Oh, wow.
Now it frees me up to take more photos, edit quicker, edit more like, she's freed up to do more. And so I think what I really want people to know, everyone is like, AI is going to take our jobs, like it's going to ruin everything. No, it will enable you to do more of what you love to do in your job.
Yeah.
It will free you up to do different kinds of work. It's democratizing also creativity. So for example, say I wanted to make, a movie. I'm so excited. I'm like, I have this really strong vision of like what I want in my mind. Okay. And I just have this, I'm so excited. And I have this movie I want to make. But I don't have a ton of money. I can't hire a filmographer. I can't hire actors. I can't hire this or that. But instead, I can make this movie start to finish completely on my own with like no cost. And so then, I hear people in my head saying, then what's going to happen to the actors? What's going to happen to the filmographers? They're still going to exist. People are still going to want to make movies with real people. I'm talking about just enabling creativity in a way that it's never been enabled before, democratizing it so that people can create without needing a lot of money or expertise or, a beautiful location to film at. And yeah, I'm just excited about it. Also, another thing, this is kind of with virtual reality and augmented reality, but I really like that virtual reality. I'm just thinking about this right now. You can like suddenly be in a beautiful place. You just put on the headset and you're like, and you can design a place that is perfectly for you, and you're just there and you can like rest and whatever and experience, whatever it is that you want to experience. And your brain really doesn't know the difference, honestly. Like, I used to work in the VR lab at Stanford, the virtual human interaction lab, where they studied VR's impact on empathy. So for example, they had this one experience where you experience being a homeless person, or like you're in your house and then you get an eviction notice and then you have to go to a homeless shelter and you're turned away and all these things. And there's, a survey before and after about your empathy towards people who are homeless. And they just found that across all different domains, VR greatly increases people's ability to empathize. because your brain really doesn't know the difference. Like there's this super famous VR experiment or experience where you're walking across a plank with a headset on. People can't do it. Like you're in a plank elevated in the sky. You know, your brain knows like you're in a room.
Yeah.
Or you know consciously, but your whole system cannot, it's too scary. Like you can't do it. And so anyway, back to what I was saying, like it democratizes access to beautiful places and beautiful experiences and being able to travel the world. And, you know, yes, there are like, you know, people are going to be like, well, just make things less expensive and, you know, everyone has whatever. But I think it's great. Like I do. Like, yes, things can be better as well. People can experience the real world as well. But this is a great option for people to have. And also just in a short time, like say you don't have time to take a vacation and you just get home and you're tired after work and you just like want to be on a tropical island for a few hours, you know, like suddenly you're there.
I love that.
You know, so anyway, there's just so much that we can do with AI, and that's virtual reality. But there are AI components, like ultimately you can probably like point and say like, put a desk there. And like, you know, like that will be AI. Once it becomes really interactive, that we need AI for that.
The other thing that'll be so cool is like if you're wearing like contacts or glasses, like some of the glasses, to actually track what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So
yeah.
And then it can ping so many people that are maybe not doing the healthiest habits, because it's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know how much science is actually around this. I just know it exists because we hear it all the time in my clinic. People tend to think they're doing really good, you know, in a health perspective. Or
interesting.
We've all experienced this, right? Like people go to the gym and they stay on their phone and they're like literally doing social media at the gym, but because they say that they went to the gym, they then maybe eat more or are lax about other things because they technically went to the gym.
Right.
Well, if you were wearing like glasses that were actually tracking every movement that you make, every supplement that you take, every piece of food that you put into your mouth, it could give you such a better picture as to how you are where you're at.
Yes.
And then layer on the AI too, right? So we can say, okay, this is what you're doing, but if you make these small tweaks, then you can do better and feel better and have better health.
I love that. I hadn't even thought of that example. That's absolutely. And that actually makes me think about, just on like a tiny scale, but something that exists already today. There are these glasses that came out for people who are deaf, where they wear them and on the inside, as people are talking, it like puts it into text, kind of like transcribes it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Right. And so they're able to like, they don't need sign language anymore. And I watched this video of this woman opening them, and she's deaf, and she puts them on and she's like crying. She's so happy. And it's just so emotional. Like the people who will be helped with AI and the tech that will make their lives so much better, like people who with locked-in syndrome who are able to communicate, or, you know, have limbs that work like really well, like controlled with their brain. And like there's just so much that we're going to do for people. And it's just really exciting.
I know. I can't wait. I need to get the glasses to start tracking all my movements and calling all my labs together.
And like, real-time suggestions. Yeah. Someone I know that makes me think too is building something called like, I think, Friend. And it's like a pendant that you wear and it listens to you. And I don't know the details of it. I think I talked to him once and he said, or someone who's working with him, and he said they don't store the text, like the words specifically or the audio specifically, but they make like graph representations of information. So it's like kind of privacy safe. I don't know. But basically it's this like friend who will listen to your conversations, and you can say like, oh, like, how was what I said? Was that okay? Or what did you think about what, you know, Kayla said about this? Like, did you think she liked it? How did my presentation go? You know, based on what I did today, what's a movie I should watch tonight that will help me learn about this and that? And like, it's this like life assistant. And I don't know about that, but I do know I mean, in terms of like, I don't know whether I would use that or not, but I could definitely see it being useful for some people. But I have a friend, and I love this example for Claude. So, okay, I think AI will be enormously helpful in terms of like therapy and kind of like a friend in some cases. So I have a friend who is in the dating pool, and she really likes this guy, and he is very avoidant, like textbook avoidant, okay? And she would rotate through her friends, like she'd get super nervous about texting him and like rotate through her friends, like, was this okay? Like, what do you think? Why didn't he respond? Whatever. And get like her friends' disparate responses to whatever is happening at that moment with him. And I mean, her friends, it's like blind leading the blind. Like no one, you know what I mean? And so they're like, yeah, no, like that's bad. Like he should do this or that. And she called me and I said, hey, I want you to try Claude. She's like, what? I'm like, it's like ChatGPT, but it's more personable. It has just a nice personality. Like once you start using Claude, you can't really go back to ChatGPT. Like Claude is just really sweet. And I was like, you can start a thread with it and you can upload screenshots and you can talk to it about like, hey, like I went on a date with this guy this many times. He's avoidant, whatever. Like, and talk about your relationship like you would to a friend or to a therapist. But then Claude, it will build this massive history over time. Eventually, like you reach a limit, but that's after a while. And it'll be able to talk to you, but also with expert guidance. So it's like, whereas her friends would be like, that's not cool that he's, you know, kind of disappeared for a week or whatever after like being very close. Claude would be like, well, that's actually textbook avoidance. And if you know, like give him some space to like process, and like Claude is an expert. Whereas before your friends are like, they don't really know and they're just trying to help you and they love you. But Claude is like this friend that's there 24/7. She doesn't have to call them. Like she just right at the moment and get insight. And she's like, Harper, Claude has changed my life. Like, thank you. I'm so much more chill. I don't have to call all my friends about this all the time. I feel reassured instantly. And I just think everyone should be using Claude for things like that. So
I should move over to Claude. So why is Claude better than ChatGPT? The like personal night
it just has like a good vibe to it. Anthropic is the company that makes Claude. So OpenAI makes ChatGPT. Anthropic makes Claude. Anthropic's whole thing is about AI alignment. So making AI that is really helpful and supportive for humans. Okay. And so they spend a lot of money, like honestly, when you think about researchers' salaries, it's ultimately like billions of dollars on like research, like researching how to make safe AI, like AI that isn't going to go rogue, like in this movie that we watched. And they put a lot of time into making this AI that is really personable and sweet and kind and like very human-like. And it just has a good, I don't know how to explain it. It just has a good vibe. And I think that's kind of reflects the vibe of the company too. Like the creator of the company. Like I just like Anthropic a lot. So yeah, Claude is great. ChatGPT, it has more features like voice mode. But I think Claude might have just integrated that or added that. And ChatGPT can search the web, which Claude cannot do. So, this is an important thing to cover.
Yeah.
Hallucinations. I really like more people need to know about this. So can I just get into it?
Yeah.
Okay. So models are trained at like a base model that isn't augmented with the ability to search the web is trained, just large language models are trained on massive amounts of data. And they are trained to find patterns in text and then output new text according to the patterns that it's learned before. Okay. It can make things up. It doesn't really have a concept of like, this is fact or this is not. And so if you have a model that cannot search the web and validate what it's outputting, it can make things up. And so if you are looking for research or you need a real fact, you need to be positive that the fact is true, you probably don't want to use some like a base model like Claude, which doesn't currently search the web. Perplexity searches the web. I think ChatGPT, like the pro version, searches the web. Perplexity Pro, you have to pay for it, also searches the web. But this is very important. So someone at Stanford a Stanford professor who's actually an expert on misinformation and tech and misinformation, is now facing perjury because there was this law that was considering, I think it was like ban of political deepfakes or something like that. In some state, they were like considering banning deepfakes that are about politicians or something. I think that's correct. Anyway, this professor at Stanford, who's this expert on AI and misinformation, or tech and misinformation, he wrote this 13-page or 12-page paper in support of the ban. And it had, I think it was 7 sources, and 2 of them weren't real. And he signed something that said, under penalty of perjury, I declare that this is all true to the best of my knowledge, okay? And he used something like ChatGPT. I think he actually recently admitted to using ChatGPT to find sources for his paper. Like, find me research that shows like this, And there are AI sources that do this. Like if you want research that supports something that you think might be true, you can ask an AI and it will find you real research papers that support that. It's amazing. Or you can just ask it to gather info on a certain topic or whatever, Anyway, he asked it for resources. 2 of them weren't real, but he didn't know that. But the reason that happened was because ChatGPT can hallucinate. These models, if they aren't trained to search the web, can hallucinate. They just output text according to prior patterns. And so, for example, if you have a bunch of examples of case numbers and they're like 10-digit case numbers, and you ask it to output find me a case number that proves, that, I don't know, that X is true. It might output a 10-digit case number and then a title that seems to prove what you're saying, but it's just making that number up because it's just like it's not referencing real data. So if you have to know that something is true, make sure it searches the web, and also be aware of training limits on models, like when they stopped getting training data. So I was just talking to someone who wanted to kind of have a summary of a book. And it was like a recent book, and I said you definitely want to use a model that searches the web, because the book didn't come out when it was being trained, Yeah. So anyway,
how quickly are the models being trained?
I don't know. I think I was seeing something like coming out with a new model once a year.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe once every 6 months, something like that.
Things change so quickly now.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so ultimately all these models will have searching the web capabilities built in.
Is it really hard to do that? How come Claude just doesn't do that?
Yeah. I mean, it's an added feature where you have to have it kind of detect, should I search the web for this? Then it needs to, it takes a lot of power. That's why a lot of them are paid models. Claude is free. To a certain limit. I've never reached, I think, the limit, but anyway, it's free. But if you're going to search the web, it has to look at a bunch of sources, synthesize, is this relevant, scan the whole page, put it together, attach only the important parts and to the model. And so it's doing a lot of computer work, which is expensive. Compute is expensive. And so and it takes more coding to get it to do something like that.
Yeah.
So
what are people concerned about the environment with AI? Is it's using too much water or something?
Yeah, it's using a lot of energy to power the machine. So AI models use computers, basically, GPUs, that are chips that are optimized for AI processes, okay? And these chips and these computers use a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to run inference, or we talked about it at the beginning, which is when an AI model is deployed, or even training. That takes a lot of energy too. But there's one stat that says a Google search augmented with AI takes 10 times the energy of a normal Google search. So it's like, you know, in Google where you can search something and it gives you like a little AI synopsis.
Yeah.
That's 10 times the energy. And so it takes so much energy to power the computers that run the AI. And so we basically need to find energy sources. And so I recently did a 10-day series with Isabel Bimiki, who is a nuclear electricity influencer, a leading nuclear electricity influencer. And we did a series on why nuclear can help and like why they're kind of really good for each other. So that's something that a lot of companies are investing in right now is nuclear. And, you know, Isabel talks about why she's coming out with a book. She talks about why, you know, it got a bad rap that wasn't necessarily justified. And we talk about that. I've also heard, I think Elon was talking about this recently, solar. I mean, honestly, if we could just get all our energy needs from the sun, that'd be so cool. I mean, the sun has unlimited energy. And if the sun disappears, so do we. So it's a very reliable source. And I mean, AI will be able to enable these technological breakthroughs. Right now, so solar panels or the systems we have now to get the energy from the sun aren't reliable enough or can't store enough, or it's not working. But ultimately, I think with AI helping us make these technological breakthroughs, we'll be able to create a technology that harnesses enough energy from the sun in, you know, a small space or however you need. So I'm excited about that as well. And I think AI, although it uses a lot of energy and people are worried about it, it will also help us make these energetic technological breakthroughs as well. You know, like we'll probably cure any kind of like carbon emission issues or any issue that we have with the insights that AI can provide.
So exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting. Well, this has been so fun.
I know.
Do you have any last notes on AI that you want to share?
I wonder if we should talk about like how AI models work, like input and output, but maybe we don't need to.
Why don't you give us the short version of how they work for anyone that is interested?
Okay. So when you're using a chatbot model, that is using a neural network. And neural networks are a type of AI model. And what they basically do is they take input and output, so examples of input and output, and then they find the equation that transforms input into output. Neural networks are the models that are used to power systems like ChatGPT and large language models and image generation models. And what they do is they are trained by taking input and the expected output and finding the equation that maps input into output. Okay. So in the case of like a large language model, that would be the input would be like the N words, technically tokens, but words before the next word, and the output would be the next word.
Okay.
Okay. And again, it finds this equation itself. And it does that by learning features in the text and in the data that then indicate what the output should be. But it learns all those features on its own. And so in this sense, you could basically model everything with a mathematical equation. Like any input can be mapped to an output with some sufficiently complex equation. And so that's why these models have, you know, billions of parameters in them, which is like many of those, that number when you hear like it has 70 billion or 407 billion, that's mostly how many like variables there are. And so it allows the model to capture different nuances in the input data to then properly transform into the output data. So these are just super complex equations that are capturing these parameters. Are also similar to neurons. So you can think of it like in a math equation, or you can think of it like neurons. Like if you have someone with, you know, 1 million neurons, I'm sure there are way more than that, you can capture less information than if you had like 100 million neurons or 100 billion neurons, right? Because those neurons can be specialized for different things. And so that's what these models do, is they learn to map input into output. And they learn how to do that. And they train these neurons that pick up on different features of the data that can then properly imply what the output should be. What's interesting is that in neuroscience, historically, they have kind of modeled the brain by looking at neurons and interactions between neurons. But new neuroscience is now kind of learning from a neural network with AI and modeling the brain mathematically. So it's really interesting how they're like playing into each other. But our brains also do this, make our own mathematical equations. And we're also, when we learn, we're also kind of running gradient descent, which is how AI models learn and tweak their equations to make them better at, mapping input into output properly. So it's just really interesting. Like we're similar to models in that way. And ultimately, they say math is the language of the universe, and that seems to be proving true. So.
Well, I love this, and I've loved our chat about AI today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, you got to come back. I'm excited once we make more advancements in longevity. You'll have to keep us updated on how, I want people, because I think it has the ability to really democratize functional medicine and access to high quality information about health. Because right now, someone needs to go essentially to a clinic like mine, right, where we're practicing curative medicine.
Yeah.
Because you're unfortunately just not going to, your example was a great one, right? You go and they're not looking at what's actually going on. And then they don't, and all doctors are incredibly intelligent and so on and so forth, but they're not taught to even read a lot of the labs that we offer, for example.
Right. You're doing such great work, and the data that you are able to retrieve from your clients is going to help your clients in the long term and help people in the world. So I love what you're doing, and however we can continue to collaborate, I would be happy to.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Kayla.
Of course.
This podcast is for informational purposes only, and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Kayla Barnes, does not accept responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of the information contained herein. Opinions of their guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.